What is it that you're here to do? And this is a bigger question than it sounds like, and I think one that people often avoid thinking about it because it can get uncomfortable. But the main thing I first think of when this question comes up is I recall I was in high school and I was, like a lot of other people in high school, I think reasonably so, focused on what was going to help my college applications, what was going to help me move forward in like my future. And so I was worried about doing the right activities and getting good grades and doing sports and all kinds of other stuff. But then I also just went out with some friends to go look at the stars. And part of my brain, which in my defense, I was clearly half my age I am now, I was thinking about, well, how does this fit into the whole big picture of my future plan, right? How does this, and this sounds such like a crass lens, but bear with me because I think, again, we bring this lens to too much in our schooling, in our careers, in our functional lives, and lose sight on where this leads. But I was like, how does this help me long term? And what eventually I didn't realize till I was out there looking at the stars on a kind of chilly Midwestern night with my friends, was like, this is why I'm doing those other things. The reason why I continue to want a future, to keep prioritizing whatever it is I'm focusing on, trying to put myself on a good trajectory, it's to support doing these other things that are important to me. And at the very least in our culture, right? I can only speak to the fishbowl I'm in. I don't know how much is the shape of people elsewhere. I've heard it's distinctly an Americanism. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Here, when we're asked, what do you do? Our answer is often, when you're in college, you're like, well, this is my major. I'm an electrical engineer. I'm a writer, because that's what my degree is in. And then in our career, we ask, what do you do? Again, people's first thought is like, oh, I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. They'll tell you what they do for their job. Missing in there is, why are you doing that? What is your reason? What are you doing with the optional stuff you have, where you have some flexibility and give in choice in what you do with your time and energy? And the danger of never grappling with this question, to also acknowledge, it's fine if the answer is to go look at stars. It's valid, right? That's a valid answer. It can be, I think, in fact, a nice answer. But I think for a lot of us, and certainly for me as I've gotten older, but by now enough years of doing this, realizing that there was a mismatch between the shape that my professional life was asking of me and doing the things that I feel I am here to do, that I'm able to contribute my whole self to doing the way I think they ought to be done. It's been a big factor in why and how I've steered my life the way that I have, steered my work the way that it has, to contort it around, this is what I think is the right thing to be doing. This is what I think is the right way to be helping people. Even if there is some other existing structure, it would want me to be a different shape. And not only that, but be at odds with me doing the other thing. And this also is not, to be clear, and this is the other night in a meetup, and part of what I like about meetups is anybody can go to them. One of the downsides of meetups is anybody can go to them. There was an expression of confusion who was like, well, that all sounds nice if you get to do whatever you want. I'm not talking about the day job stuff or the primary income stuff. I'm talking about, again, what we do with our own time and energy. What we may even make trade-offs or priorities around, well, if I accept this as the day job, it's going to complicate my ability to do this other thing on the side. We're going to making these different kind of difficult decisions about, is it better to exist in the world in a compromised, corners cut, low budget fashion, because that is the version that I can realize and bring into reality and put out there, versus, would it be great if it had a Marvel budget? I guess, but because it's not going to happen, it's an irrelevant question, right? Would it be great if this was my whole day job doing this thing that's important to me? Probably, but in many cases, for most people's lives in the shape of what they want to put out there, might be a smaller audience, might be more niche. They probably don't have the level of visibility they would need to sell it at volume, the connections or contacts they would need necessarily to do that. And so instead it becomes a question of, okay, well, if it's what I'm here to do, there's this rich tapestry of other stuff all around us. More people than ever have had the opportunity to write their story, to give their video course, to put on their podcast. Right? I've been running one for 9 years without having to necessarily go through, okay, can you make a business case for it? Can it justify the numbers? And in these situations, the interesting dynamic going on about the importance of promoting it isn't actually, can I run a fully focused, my main business being this whatever I made, this game, this book, this podcast, this whatever. But it is a distinction of, for each additional person who I get to check out this thing who appreciates it, I genuinely feel more like in a deep sense, what I am here to do is happening. I am doing it. Right? So we take as an example my Get Yourself to Do Things material, where that has not been my primary income. But now about 7,000 people now have that material from a combination of itch bundles, my Udemy course. It's bundled one of those from Gumroad, it's on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible, right? When I first made that project, I knew it was not going to be my primary source of income. It's not going to be my main living. It's going to be a part of it, hopefully. And it does have a price on it everywhere. But it is also something where I knew that it was important to me to help people. That's an important part of my answer for why I'm here. I want to help people, right? That's again part of what makes me a teacher. But it was also realizing that whereas most of my work for many years has been with game developers doing game development related stuff, I wanted to try to make some material to help people who don't necessarily care about games, to help address a broader range of issues in people's lives. And so again, commercial relevance. So got myself early on in that project this nice mechanical keyboard. Looks like a typewriter. Little enter key, little scroll bar, little volume knob. Got a place to set an iPad or whatever up here. I mostly use it with a laptop or a Chromebook anyway. Anyway, expensive, nice mechanical keyboard. And part of my deal to myself there, right, I've probably mentioned before on this channel, was I wanted to make sure that this project would at least pay off that keyboard. That to me was a goal and a bar to make sure I didn't just give it away. Because so much of my work, like so many other people's work, who they'll put years into a project of their why am I here, is they put it out there for free and then they just sit on it quietly. It gathers dust. They just dump it out. They're like, well, now it exists. If part of what drives us is that I need this thing outside me to exist, I need this to happen, it's not actually fulfilling to say what needs to be said if no one's listening, if no one's hearing it. Does that make sense? And I knew that by connecting it to, like, I'm going to charge for this, an actual amount, and it varies by cost depending on what platform it's on, but I've earned enough to now buy, I think, last I checked, it's probably more than this, 40 or 50 of these keyboards from the earnings of that book, which again is not like my main income, but enough to be like non-trivial. And it is because of that it has reached and improved more people's lives. It's because it's been able to help me prioritize for years, making more promotions around it, steering more people towards it, gathering testimonials. Heck, my previous video on this channel, right? And obviously I'm still alternating kind of use of this channel a little bit. Even though home teams are mostly known for, I'm just a person with a YouTube channel. And I think it was important to show an example of me just shamelessly promoting my work, which is what I'm encouraging you to do through this Feel Better Selling stuff. But the kind of work I'm promoting, right, is very, very important to me. It's because Home Team Game Dev exists because I feel like there's a way to teach game development that this is the best way to do it. And we've got a ton of results to show I'm very proud of, and that I've set up a way to do it sustainably. So I'm still doing it a decade later, as opposed to it fell apart when I got tired or I kind of martyred myself and then I couldn't find someone else to carry it as a labor of love or something. Like that I can actually operate that sustainably as a point of pride to me. But for example, that video, right, included some very, I think, glowing testimonials of reviews, people who've like had positive experiences with it. And same thing true for my Get Yourself to Do Things material. A bunch of that page, you'll see back-to-back reviews. People have posted about it on Udemy, about it on Amazon, about people have messaged me, emailed me, gone out of the way to tell me, obviously with permission to use their words there, about how much it's positively impacted them. And to be clear, right, that's not just a sales tactic in terms of, oh, it's going to help convince someone out there. Back to my kind of core thread about this Feel Better Selling project I'm working on, gathering those is fundamentally partly an exercise in persuading myself. It is selling to me in the sense of I have to convince myself, yeah, this actually, people are liking this. This is helping them. This is, people who find out about this are glad they found out about it. People who bothered to pay for this, who bothered to read this or watch this or listen to this, got enough out of it to see that it was actually positively impacting their lives. That enables me to be more shameless about going out there and promoting it, raising alarm about, hey, this exists. This seems like a fit for what you're looking for. Have you checked this out? And even that simple tactic, that technique, that thought of, okay, gathering some of the reviews, gathering this kind of feedback to get validation for ourselves is the kind of process I'm talking about, this Feel Better Selling stuff. It is this thing where, what are the things that we can do that help us overcome our hangups about, why am I holding back on telling people about something that I've done, that I put a ton of work into? Why am I being so quiet about it? And there might be parts of that include a little bit of kind of what I've been calling business skills for non-business people. I think that one of the reasons why we hold back, why we don't act with confidence, is this fear of, I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to do it incorrectly. I don't want to bother or spam people. I don't want to cross any lines. I don't want to whatever, which comes from a good place. But I think what often winds up happening is we end up holding ourselves back and we're like, okay, we'll just dump it out there for free because that seems simple. when you charge for something and charge enough for something that it can actually be done a little more sustainably, at the very least, right, what it enables is it can actually address some of the same hangups that cause us to hold ourselves back. It is through doing so that you can then, if it is earning enough money, that it becomes relevant to like how to make sure that this money is properly accounted for in terms of, am I doing my quarterly estimated taxes? Am I getting whatever other kind of, do I need an LLC or whatever? That becomes a way to fund that because the money is there because you're charging appropriately for it to make sure it's being done above board with proper contracts, X, Y, and Z, so on. It's the sort of thing where if the worry is like, oh, I want to get to more people. And again, I felt this way for a long time in my career. I'd make a game, release it for free. I'd be like, well, now everybody could get it. But the world is not shaped in which these free games, which there's an abundance of being made, like free writing, like for anything else, just float in front of people who all have to give it a chance. Everything's fighting and vying for their attention. And when something is an actual paid effort and I have to make a better case for why and how this is actually something that might be entertaining to this person or useful to this person, it allows me to prioritize doing that, and that's the only way anything gets into people's attention. And so it is, again, trying to figure out the intersection of these projects that are important to us. This, why am I here? Why am I doing stuff? And then how do I make sure I do it in a way that I can prioritize it, that I can give it the time that it deserves and needs, that I can operate it in a way that at the very least it covers its own costs. And it's the difference between an expense and a investment of sorts. And it's a little tricky because obviously there's risk involved, it's inherent to business, but this is not quite a business lens of how do you make a high ROI operation. Again, that's the kind of thing at the very least, not the kind of business I know how to operate. It's not one I've ever shaped around. But it is to think about, okay, so there might be some basic fundamentals to help someone have confidence in doing their business things, but at the very least, so that they're not losing money on it. At the very least, they don't have to back away from it because they just wanted to put out information for free, but found that when they were doing it for free, no one watched it, no one heard about it, they couldn't raise any awareness of it, they couldn't justify continuing to do it as life put other demands in front of them. It needed their attention. And so this is probably the area I'm kind of focusing on against, but a lot of these experimental videos, we're kind of exploring different ways to talk about this feel better selling thing, seeing what questions it surfaces from people, seeing which in myself, things I feel most strongly about talking about, feel like it's most useful, feels like best answers my question for why am I here? And I think more than any other thing I've discussed on this channel yet, at the very least about feel better selling stuff, is my why I'm here is to help you do more with your why you're here. And for so many of my years of my life, right, it's been about game development. It's been helping people build computer games that they want to build, to get their skills together, to make the kind of projects that are important to them. Sometimes it's related to the career path, sometimes it isn't. Because they have it in them. Like people who want to sing need to sing. People who need to dance need to dance. People who need to write got to write. And that there is surely a thing inside you that is different than what a company needs you to do on their behalf, which isn't bad, isn't negative, isn't frowned upon any of that. It is asked, though, if there are situations where that is in conflict with, I've probably mentioned before in my feel better selling discussions, but like companies need you to be replaceable. They need you to be in an easy to replace pigeonhole box of what exactly you do there in the assembly line of what they're doing. So that if you quit, leave, if something, God forbid, happens to you, the stockholders, the shareholders, the customers, the deadlines, none of that is affected, right? They can, without missing a beat, bring in another engineer, senior level 2 or whatever, just come in, slot them in, keep that back end running, etc., which is all the shape of business. And again, I don't blame businesses for that. It does mean, though, that that's going to lead to us atrophying our other skill areas, the things that round us out, the things that enable us to do on the side our things that are important to us, our why I'm here kind of thing. Anyway, that's the latest thinking about it. I'm probably going to be sending out my first email about this feel better selling thing in the next 48 hours. So if you haven't yet joined this email list at feelbetterselling.com, I think you should. It's probably going to be where I'm going to be offering some sort of way to meet with me over the next, mid-November to mid-December or so. I've been exploring the possibility of partnering up with someone else who's adjacent to what I'm doing. And there's actually a couple different people having these discussions with this week. I don't think I'm going to have it sorted out before this first email, but it's been a month since I first kicked off this initiative. Just the question today to be thinking about, which again, I can't answer for you. No one else can answer for you. Is thinking about what is your why am I here thing. It's thinking about, is the business that you're part of, is the path that you're on actually helping you deliver that? Is it making you shrink that version of yourself? One of the version, this is, okay, kind of gets under my skin a little bit. I'm going to be vague about which university this was. I've taught at a couple of different universities at this point, and I'm not going to call attention to which one or which faculty because it's not the point, right? This is a systematic thing that happens everywhere. But witnessing it up front was kind of deeply, made me jittery. Education, like game design, like I'm sure a lot of fields, just I see the fishbowl I swim in, is more people spend a lot of years of their life wanting to help people, wanting to serve them by training at their own cost and expense in their areas of study, in their areas of research, and so on. And I was at a faculty kind of informal lunch / meeting kind of discussion. And one was expressing frustration with another because one was doing a lot of extra work that was not being compensated by the program or by the school. And he raised a valid point. He said, as long as you keep doing this too much work that they aren't paying any of us to do, they're not going to be paying anyone to do it. The other person, equally frustrated, and by the way, that's a valid complaint, right? That is true. That is a true and valid frustration. The other person's true and valid frustration is, yes, but this helps the students. This is what I'm here to do. This helps potentially our staff and our faculty if this program excels and thrives and does well. And in a very frustrated, resigned way, kind of acknowledging, he wasn't even quite so blunt, but the gist of it being, the program, the school was never going to pay anyone to do these extra things that need to be done for the benefit of the students, that should be done to help the people, should be done for the betterment of the program. Money was not going to be allocated in that way. Out of the whirlwind of arm and a leg students are being charged and the little bit being paid to faculty, none was going to go towards these things that need to be done. They weren't going to pay anyone to do it, but it puts them in this jam. And again, what winds up happening, I see this again and again, and it's part of why this feel better selling thing about your own outside personal projects of why we're here, why it's so important to me. Seeing people who are capable of more than they're doing, who are not bringing their full whole self to their situation where they have their whole life is shaped around doing this thing that they find themselves with good, valid, rational reason dragging their feet on, not doing their best version because they have seen too many times where when they did that, they were taken advantage of. They enriched somebody else. They caused more income inequality. They created a situation where their coworkers were mad at them for doing things that they weren't being compensated for, etc. And realizing how much, again, the other structured things we're participating in, which we're going to have to, right? Again, that's survival. But the question is, are we settling in there? Is that our long-term forever plan? The question is this a step in the direction that I want to actually be going? The question is it in support of? Is it at least not at odds with my ability to do what I want to be doing? I've known people who in games feel so strong about ownership of their own outside game projects that they left game industry as their day job to work in any other industry as their day job just to make sure there was a removed ambiguity of, on their own side projects, am I fearful? Am I holding back of doing my best work the way I think games ought to be designed, the way I think I ought to be reaching players with it, from concern that if it gets past a certain level of visibility, it's going to become conflict with the day job people. Anyway, there's something here. I'm still refining exactly what it is, what shape it takes. That's why I'm still trying to get this stuff sorted again. I'll be working with people on some version of this over the next month or so on a private, individual basis. My target, this may be unrealistic. My target, I'm going to be trying to strive for, is that something by my birthday on December 16th, which has been my launch date for my textbooks, been my launch date for some of my video courses, launch date for a number of things over the years. It's built around this thing when I was growing up. My brother and I, when either of us had a birthday, our parents would get both of us a gift. They thought it was kind of neat to, and I like this energy, right? It's a part of the birthday thing is to get a gift for someone else too. And so for me, part of my birthday celebration is I want to give you something. But again, give in the sense of a created product that if you think it's worth the value, you could buy, you could pay for. So part of my goal is to find a way to productize this in the month and a half I have left, which includes some time working with consulting with people individually. Details in that next 24, 48 hours on the email, feelbetterselling.com if you haven't yet. I'm starting to talk myself in circles, so I'm going to call it for the day. Thanks always for tuning in, for following along. Obviously, kind of a return after a gap here. Wanted to show right when I'm shamelessly promoting my own work stuff. Also giving some time for kind of numbers to settle, see how my feelings are about different angles I've taken, what kind of questions they surfaced, what people were kind of more excited to talk to me about outside of here. Anyway, that's it for now. Watch out for that email, feelbetterselling.com if you haven't yet. Catch you next time. Bye for now. And I look forward to working with some of you in person. So, Zoom. You got the idea. Bye for now.